Tell me when we're going live. I'm just trying to keep myself busy.
Okay, we're going live. All right, Mother, do you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jane's mom, Peggy Igami.
hmm And there you go. There you have it. Everyone knows her as the Pegster. She's fun, she's fresh, and she's my mom. So that's all the intro that you need. Anyway, my mom has been avoiding coming on this podcast for a long time because I don't know if I'm going to put in the beginning of this, but she was just crying when I asked her if she's ready to start. So she's been putting it off for a minute. If Josie did it with you, you probably would cry the same amount, but
I was going to say it wouldn't matter.
at least she could like say random stuff in between, but it's okay. This will be great. Um, I wanted to have you on because one, even though you, Daddy, and Josie have been there since day one, obviously you were there the most. Josie visited me in the hospital probably a total of 5 times, like in total. And like, I know Daddy was with me a lot too. Like, you guys
Yeah.
took, but like, I don't think he's ever been to a doctor's appointment. I don't think he's ever like done more than like when I'm in the hospital, he's there,
Yeah.
which is enough, but I'm just saying. Anyway, so we'll start out with an easy question, okay? It's
Okay.
not necessarily about me at all. So I kind of wanted you to go a little into your medical history, like kind of what is going on with you and like how you found out. Like you could talk about the Lynch syndrome, the colon issues, like kind of like go into what you have because you kind of have like a chronic illness too. So, when did you first um, feel like you wanted to get genetically tested for yourself?
That was when my brother Ronnie got diagnosed with cancer.
Mhm.
So my brother Jeff, he died at 35 years old from colon cancer. And then several years later, Ronnie got cancer. And his wife, she was doing her homework big time. And she's the one that recommended that I should get tested, DNA tested for all this stuff. Because she thought, with how young my brother Jeff died, that she found Lynch syndrome. I don't know how she found it or whatever, but she goes, I think you guys all have Lynch syndrome. Ronnie got tested, he had it. I got tested, I have it.
And like,
So
I mean, we're assuming Uncle Jeff had it and your mom had it.
we're assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So because
go ahead.
because my dad, he got tested and he does not have it, or he did not have it. So we just kind of came to the conclusion that it definitely came from my mom's side. So, but if anyone doesn't know a lot about Lynch syndrome, basically it's a disease, and so I'm very prone to getting cancer, and colon cancer is one of the big ones. Cervical cancer, pancreatic cancer are all like the big ones. When I got cancer the first time in 2014, I had got colon cancer. They removed part of my colon. And then I got it again in 2020. And so that's when they completely removed my whole colon at that time. But in 2015, my surgeon says, we're taking out your uterus, you're done having kids, we're taking out everything. So I had a full hysterectomy because that's, again, the cervical cancer. um, I could get cervical cancer very easily because of the Lynch syndrome.
Right. And your mom had cervical or like ovarian cancer, basically. Is that the same?
Yes. I think so.
Yeah. So with all that, your mom had that, your oldest brother had colon at 35, your next brother had colon and like other cancers, but he had colon, right?
Yeah, he had colon cancer, but the adrenal cancer is the one that killed him.
Mhm. And then you got colon cancer. And
Hmm.
so that's when you got genetically tested. And I was like 16. So that was
Hmm.
a long time. That was 10 years ago. Wow.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
I feel like that was a good, like the best thing that you could have done, because obviously then you were aware of it and you were able to catch like a bunch of stuff after that, rather
Right.
than not like being your normal self and being like, oh, I don't need to go to the doctor. It is,
Yes.
you know?
I no longer procrastinate. If I feel something isn't right, I make that call. I need to see a doctor.
Yeah, which is good. So when you had your second surgery for colon cancer, a couple years ago, kind of go into what you had to do for that, because you had like all of your small intestine taken out.
No, that's all I have left.
Oh,
Your colon is your large intestines.
okay. So
So
large intestine taken out, majority
mhm,
of it.
all of it. I have no, I have no colon anymore. So, and then in the worst part was it was the beginning of COVID. So I had to go through all of this by myself.
That's really,
Nobody could come and see me in the hospital. I would just do some FaceTime calls to you guys just to kind of let you know where I was at. But it was a very, very tough road. It was really hard.
yeah. No, I remember because I was gonna come home by myself, but then you were like, you can't even come in the hospital or anything. So it's like, what's the point? Josie couldn't see you, Daddy couldn't see you. They could just like pick you up, right? And stuff, like, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, your dad and Josie were both able to come into the hospital for training because I ended up having emergency surgery because my small intestines got tangled up. So I had to get an ileostomy bag. So they had to get training on that so they could learn how to hook it up, how to take it off, and all of that. So that was the extent of being able to have anybody in the hospital with me. So it was like a 1 hour short little visit, getting training, and then they'd have to leave.
But it wasn't like an actual like visit where they could just sit with you and like hang out.
No.
Yeah, it was like, oh, we're here to do something and then I have to go type of thing.
Yes.
So can you explain a little bit what your how do you say it? Ilamos. I just called it your bag.
My bag, yes. So basically, seeing as that they did emergency surgery, so there's okay, so let me back up a little bit. There's nurses that place those, they'll come into the room and tell the surgeon this is where it needs to go.
Mhm.
And they'll, put an X marks the spot on your body of where this ileostomy bag has to go. But mine was an emergency. And they didn't have time for that. They didn't have time for anybody to come. They just rushed me right to the emergency room. And sorry.
It's okay.
And so the surgeon, I was so mad at her because she put it in one of my fat rolls. So my ileostomy bag, it would leak. So I would sit up or whatever, and you sit and you're kind of fat rolls, you got room there, and all of a sudden my poop would be coming out the sides of the bag. And it wasn't very pleasant for anybody, especially me.
Mhm.
So we had to have a lot of extra training because I had to learn how to, and your dad and Josie had to learn how to build it up. So basically putting layers of this kind of like clay
Mhm.
and to even out my skin, to basically cover up those fat rolls. So where the fat was, they'd have to put extra like putty or clay, whatever you want to call it, there to help so it wouldn't leak. That took a lot.
Yeah.
So, but that was, they took it, I had it for 8 months, and then she removed it and my small intestines were better. And so then they connected my small intestines to my anus. So that's why it took me probably almost, well, about a year and a half before I could kind of become pretty normal with bowel movements.
Right. So for people that don't know, how do you pronounce it? Illinois.
You're confusing me. Ileostomy.
Yeah, because there's two. There's that one, and then there's another one. But this one that my mom had, um, they hooked it up to her small intestine, and since she didn't have the large intestine, like when you go to the bathroom, it just travels to the small intestine, and then it came out in the bag basically, and then
Mhm.
they had to change it, clean it, all that good stuff. And it was like if she took it off, it was like a little like wasn't your intestine like out of your body?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it's out of your body. And and there were times where, this is kind of gross, but there were times where your dad would go to change my bag and all of a sudden I would start to poop.
Because you
And
can't
it's just,
control it. Yeah.
oh no, you can't control it one bit. I don't even know when I'm doing it or when I'm going, when I had that ileostomy bag. So it was just, he'd sit there and he was getting wet paper towels and all this stuff to try to, you know, clean it as it was coming out of me and all this stuff. And there was, the longest was almost 2 hours that he had to sit there and wipe and wipe and wipe before I stopped.
So you can put it back on, or yeah, like put it
Put
all
a
back.
new one on. Yeah. Yeah.
He's probably
So
thinking I pulled it off at the wrong time.
yeah. And you just don't know, so we always planned it like before, before a meal and that kind of stuff, so
Risk.
we got it down really good. Well, at the end I was doing it all by myself. So, but in the beginning it was definitely trial and error.
Yeah. How how are you supposed to know how to do that?
I
Um,
know.
those two bag, different types. I should have looked up how to pronounce the other one, but those two, they're very common with like Crohn's disease too, and like
Hmm.
what France has, like ulcerative colitis. The people that have those, like when it gets bad, like that's typically what they get too, which is like crazy. But anyway, yeah, so that was definitely an experience, but luckily you were able to take those out or take it out and you didn't have to live with it. Like your
Right.
small intestines like fix themselves on their own basically, so you can just go to the bathroom normal, and now it's all normal. It's all good. Your only issue is that since you have not very much space between your mouth and your butt, when you gotta go, you gotta go. And there's no
Yes.
time to wait.
That's correct.
That's,
So, yeah. And we'll leave it at that.
we'll leave it at that. Um, okay, so basically, that was all to say how important it is to kind of like know your medical background. I would say you would agree. It's very important to know your medical background. I feel like a lot
Yes.
of people don't. Like France has no idea what, like when you get asked that at a doctor, typically they ask you all those types of questions,
Mhm.
parent side, whatever. Um, and he doesn't know anything at all from his mom's side. Like, who knows? Mental illness, like heart problems,
Right.
whatever, he doesn't know. Luckily for me, I know because there's so many things. There's so many things. So I'm like, yep, check, check, check. But it's good because then I know, okay, all these things run in the family. So get all those things checked out, and then I feel better. And I know that I'm healthy, whatever. Only got to worry about the kidney right now, and that's it. So it's good. So check yourself out. I still need to do my genetic testing, but like I just want to wait. I want to,
Yes.
because, oh, you didn't mention, so Lynch syndrome is a 50-50 chance of your
Yes.
your children having it. So with your mom, you were all 50-50, you all got it.
Mhm.
Us, we're 50-50, and Josie didn't get it, my sister. The only
Yeah.
other is me.
Yes, and I saw my oncologist today. That's my cancer doctor. And he said, your daughter in Arizona hasn't had it done yet to be tested for Lynch syndrome. I'm like, no, but it's on her to-do list.
Honestly, it's because I'm like 99% sure I have it. So I just kind of want to get through these happy times, next couple months, and then I can like be sad about it for like a second and then like move on. But I just, I don't want to think about it right now because if I get it done, I know that it'll be just like in my mind and all of a sudden everything's going to be wrong with me. And I don't want to think about that. I just want to like get married again, have
Right.
some fun, whatever. And I just got a colonoscopy for my kidney transplant. So it's like, I'm good for now with
Yeah.
that. Within the next year, I'll get it done. That's all that really matters, right?
Yep.
We'll go with that. Okay, now we're gonna get into some other types of questions. So
Okay.
grab the tissues if you need it. Maybe drink some wine. Um,
That's what I should have did.
let's start our Advent today if you want. We can have our first bottle of wine. We should have. Should
Yes.
we stop and go get it?
Yeah.
Okay, go get one of them, or bring the box or
Okay.
whatever. Let me go get
Okay.
it. Okay, so quick
So
intermission, guys. If you, me and my mom bought this wine Advent from Target. It's not too late to buy one. Super cute. And we're gonna drink the number one because my mom is a little nervous about talking on this podcast. So midway through, we're gonna try Night Lights Cabernet. Oh my gosh, I can't even, I'm not gonna butcher it. This is what it is.
Cabernet Sauvignon, Bulgaria. Huh.
And it is this beautiful red wine. Smile.
I
Okay.
have mine. Amino.
All right, let's see. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yummy.
It's good.
Okay. Intermission over. We got our wine. Now we're going to start. Okay. So, like I said, it's not a lot of questions about me, okay? But I do want to talk about it because I feel like it's really good for other parents to hear about it. Okay. So everyone that's on here kind of knows my story, but if they don't, I'll just do a quick background from my point of view. Basically, the summer going into my 8th grade year, started feeling like really sick, got the flu shot, everything went downhill. You forced me to go to the emergency room. I was so upset about it. I remember I ate a banana. That's the worst thing to do when your kidneys are failing. Anyway, I was eating the banana and I went to the emergency room. Obviously, they didn't talk to me. I was 13. Nothing was said to me. Do you remember at all what they told you at the hospital that we went to close to our house before we got transferred to Children's? Do you remember
I do. Yeah, I remember that night well. So at 9 o'clock at night, I made you go to the hospital. We were going to the emergency room and you were kicking and screaming the whole way. You're like, please, mommy, no, no, no. And I said, you're going. So we get to the emergency room. I told them that you were having a lot of trouble breathing. You couldn't breathe. So they didn't waste any time. You were taken in right away. They got you in there and stuff. They started doing some tests and stuff. Long story short, they came out and they were telling me that your lungs are filled with water. And basically, if we didn't get you to a children's hospital, they didn't have the facilities there to take care of what needed to be taken care of for you. So that's where they said, we're going to send you by ambulance to Children's Hospital in Madeira. But they said one more day and you would have died, that you were that sick.
And like,
And
didn't they say something like they didn't know how I was walking into the hospital?
yes, they said they did not know how you were. Yeah, they didn't know how you were walking. You were doing everything like normal, but I remember when you would walk your sister to the corner, you would be just like, you were exhausted when you came back. And yeah, it was just unbelievable, and they couldn't understand how you could continue doing what you were doing, as sick as you were. So they're like, they told me to follow them, so they put you in the ambulance and I followed them to Madeira Hospital, 100 miles away from home. Then I called your dad. Said, guess what, we're in Madeira, we're at Children's Hospital.
Yeah.
So
And it was the day going into my sister's birthday. I just got to put that in there, okay? Day going into my
yes.
sister's birthday, 10th birthday, big deal. Always got the big breakfast when she woke up before school. She didn't get it, okay? I'm sorry, Josie. I'm sorry. I'll be sorry, okay? um, but yeah, um, from what I remember on that day, we got there. They put me on the little like bed thing, the gurney thing, and then I was attacked by nurses, and they said I was going into surgery. Um, and then I was wondering, like, I know it took a couple days, I'm pretty sure,
Yes.
but it took a
Uh-huh.
couple days for them to finally say, like, this is what she has, this is what's going on. Um, do you remember that conversation and like kind of what they told you? Because I remember I was like pretending to be asleep because I didn't want to talk to anyone and I knew it was a doctor, but I didn't
Yeah.
understand anything. So do you remember that conversation at all?
Yeah, I remember them talking about your fingernails. So apparently somebody that has lupus, your fingernails, they're like all, do you remember that big circle on your fingernails?
The white?
Your yeah, your fingernails were discolored. And
Well,
apparently,
sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so what I learned not too long ago, actually, when I was on dialysis, like normally in the middle here, sorry, not this finger, in the middle here, it's like pink, and then like you have the white tip if your nails grow out a little
Mhm.
bit. But mine was completely white
Yep.
for when I was on dialysis, and it kept getting like worse and worse. And they said it's because when your kidneys don't work, something about, I literally forgot, but like something about like malnutrition, like toxins, all that stuff, it like changes the
Mhm.
colors of your fingernails, which was weird. So I'm like, oh, if
Yeah.
my fingernails are white, that means my kidneys aren't working. So
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy because I remember the doctor, because there was a big group of people that came into that room, and they basically said that you had lupus. I had no idea what lupus was. I never heard of lupus. I didn't have a clue. So they were really good at explaining everything to us about what it was. And it's just one of those things that you probably got from my side of the family.
well, your aunt, no, your
My
cousin.
my cousin, she also has lupus. So when I called my dad when we finally had some answers, I want to say that it was pretty close to 3 days before we had any final answers on stuff. And I remember calling my dad to tell him that you had lupus, and he goes, "Oh, your cousin Patty has lupus." I'm like, and this is the first I'm hearing of this. I mean, I knew she was sick all the time. And I mean, not when we were little. When we were little, because I'd always spend like 2 weeks with her family every summer. And but she was fine during that time. But when it was older, when I didn't like see her anymore and stuff, then that's when they said that she had lupus. So, but hers didn't attack her kidneys. Her lupus attacked her brain. And she's had, I want to say, well over 35 to 40 strokes. And I could be way off on that. It could be a lot more, but she's had so many little mini strokes from this.
Yeah. Which, side note, yeah, lupus most commonly affects kidneys. That's like number one for everyone mostly. But it also affects your heart. It could affect your skin. It could affect your brain and your lungs. But yeah, like the main one is the skin and the
Kidneys.
kidneys. Yeah. Um, but yeah, so your cousin had it. Obviously, she unfortunately has it a lot worse than me, knock on wood. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, so she had that. After that conversation, like they told you what I had and everything, what happened after that?
Oh, they just started pumping you full of steroids, pumping you over. I want to say it was like over 300, I don't know how they milligrams or whatever, but it was well over 300 whatever of steroids, and you blew up
Mhm.
big. Like, it was so sad, that you had to go through all that. But you were in the hospital for like 3 weeks. So I was there a majority of the time, and then your dad would be like, go home, you know, go home, refresh, do whatever, and stay home for a couple days. But of course I couldn't. For one, I would stay home for one day. I would go to work and let them know. I'd give them updates on you. I'd cry for 100 miles going home from the hospital. Every time I'd cry for an hour. Right.
Well, obviously it's your kid, so
Yeah.
and like no one's ever really been sick before. So I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember like you and daddy had to wipe my butt. That was the most embarrassing thing of my life. It wasn't like obviously when you did it, it was bad, but like when daddy had to do it, I was 13. Like 13.
Yeah.
If I was,
Puberty.
if I was like 10, but like I just got my period and now my dad's wiping my butt.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
How do
Uh,
you think I feel? He had to change my poop bag.
I know, but at least you were like, yeah, yeah. Been through a lot with the poop. I know. I have a thing. For people like you who have more than one kid, one of the kids is the sick one, and then the other one's like fine. How, like, if you could redo everything, how would you do anything different when it comes to like attention for Josie? Or like you and daddy both, like attention for Josie, or like not worrying about me as much, or like whatever, like during that time? Because I feel like whether she says it or not, her like she probably felt like neglected or whatever. And a lot of it has to do with her freaking birthday. But like,
Right.
but like, cause she was so little, she was really little. And I don't think she like understood anything, like what would
Right.
happen besides, oh, Jane's sick. And then I'm just being stuck with my aunt type of thing, like what would you do something different? Tell her something different? I don't know.
Well, to be honest, probably not. I mean, when that happens to you, it's like your kids aren't supposed to be that sick. It was devastating to me. I was like, my God, this is my firstborn child, and she's this sick. Almost lost her. She's We don't know what's going to happen, how things are going to end up. And it was, so every time I was home, I gave Josie as much attention as I could, but she also had a wonderful time with her Auntie Marla and
Mhm.
Uncle Ken. So I think she lucked out on that part of it, because she had more fun with them than she would have with me. But again, it's like you have to spread that love. But as a mother, you you tend to kind of go towards the one that's sick more. And, you know, to this day, Josie's like, change your favorite, change your favorite. And to be honest, I feel like it's all my fault that you got this sick. And I think about that all the time, all the time. This should have never happened to you.
Honestly, wait,
And go ahead.
don't finish.
I don't remember what I was going to say now. But yeah, I cry all the time about it. It's my fault. And I probably do extra things for you that I shouldn't. So I don't know. It's just how I feel. I'm like, if it wasn't for all the stuff on my side of the family, you wouldn't have this.
Well, honestly, I feel like it kind of worked out good the way it did because yeah, it sucked like I was a kid, but at least it wasn't now that I'm having to deal with all of this for the first time and like just learning about what lupus is and like I'm 20 something and all of a sudden I'm that sick. Like I get it, I've been going through the kidney stuff, but like that was so much easier to go through, like already have gone through 10 years of all that. And then
Right.
now, and then it happened too, yeah, like when I was a kid and I was out of school for like a month, but I was in eighth grade. So it was easy to like catch up. Not if I'm in college and I'm trying to catch
Right.
up on stuff or quit my job or something because of it. And then like
Right.
broke for months and months. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it all worked out for a reason. All right. Last but most important question.
Uh-oh.
What is something you would tell a parent who went through a similar experience that you have gone through with me?
Well, don't always believe what they tell you, because you were notorious for lying to me about you would cover up, you know, and I didn't think anything of it when you would have your sweatpants so far down that they covered your feet. So I couldn't see your feet.
I
I
don't even
couldn't see how swollen. Oh yeah. So I couldn't see how swollen you were. You would wear your dad's sweatshirts. So your hands would be covered up and you'd have your hands tucked in. All this stuff. It was like you were hiding stuff from me. And the one thing that like really gave it away, I shouldn't say gave it away, but when you went to a friend's house, you spent the night. And when I picked you up the next morning, your face was all red and rash. And we were thinking, oh, she must be allergic to the cat. But little did we know it was the butterfly rash of lupus. So if there's something that just doesn't feel right to you, doesn't look right, um, check it out. I mean, I could have lost my daughter if I didn't take her to the emergency room that night. She could have been dead the next morning. So don't listen to them.
I
Seriously.
I don't even remember doing all that. I
You
remember
don't?
I remember like things that would happen to me, but I don't remember doing weird stuff like that. Like I remember
Yeah.
I would shower. It got to a point where my knees were so swollen that the
Yeah.
shower I had at the time, there wasn't like it wasn't like a bathtub. It's just like a step, literally this tall, if that, to get in and out. And I remember I couldn't even lift like bend my knee enough to lift it over that and then walk
Mhm.
like 10 steps from the bathroom to the bed. And then on top of it, I couldn't breathe. And so then I would just like fall on the bed and then I couldn't breathe when I laid down. So I would just
Yeah.
be like, oh my God. And I'd be there like right out of the like wet and everything. Like I couldn't even dry off. It
Wow.
was so bad. And then obviously you weren't watching me take a shower. So that was
Right.
easy to
And
hide, like stuff like that.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you didn't volunteer anything I would be like, there'd be times I'd catch a glimpse of something, and then it'd be like, let me see those feet. Let me see what's going on. And then that's when we went to see your pediatrician. She's allergic to apples. He said that on a couple different occasions of the stuff that we would take you to go see him for. Oh, she's allergic to apple. I go, this girl eats 5 apples a day. She loves apples. There's no flipping way.
Yeah, and he said it was the pesticides. So I had to
Yeah.
take. Oh my God. Well, now I feel like people that know me, they know that I'm like notorious for being a bitch to nurses and doctors and stuff. But honestly, I feel like you can attest. The reason I'm like that is because there's been so many dumb ones that it's just like, I gotta press them and see if they can handle it. Like, if
And
they
they
can,
can handle you.
yeah, if they can't stand up to just a patient, they aren't a real
Yeah.
doctor. So
Yeah.
that was my
Yeah.
first encounter, a doctor that said, "Oh, you're allergic to apples. No blood work, nothing. Just you
Yeah.
eat apples, you're allergic, and that's why your feet are swollen and you got a rash on your face and your hair's falling out because of apples."
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was another thing you were hiding from me too, about your hair falling out.
Well, that's also why I got very scared recently because my hair was falling out exactly like that. And
Mm-hmm.
turns out, even though my lupus was like kind of acting up, it wasn't because of it. It was because of my medicine. So that's
Mm.
a good thing to know too, what your medicine does to you, because I was freaking out because my
Yeah.
hair, even now, still it is falling out like crazy, and it's from like my anti-rejection medicines, which is scary, but
Yeah.
okay.
But you got to take it.
I know, but like still, it would have been nice to know like, hey, your hair might start falling out a little bit more than usual when it's like clumps of hair on the floor.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's where we're going to end this podcast. Thank you for being on my podcast. I know it was really hard for you to like actually do it because you've been trying not to for so long. But you're on Podmas. Isn't that so exciting?
Yes. Yes.
Yay. Okay. Well, thank you. And you could say goodbye to everyone if you want.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Okay.
Have a happy holiday.
Okay. Bye.